For once, Danny's the last one in.
Well, I double-checked my Do Not Disturb button because I didn't feel like having my ass routed this morning.
Hey, look, we're not a bunch of amateurs like Glenn Beck around here.
On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, will Bernie catch the Olympic knee? SIRT releases a .320 pistol, 4473 conspiracies, and Freeze is day drinking again.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Danny, Marky, and Freeze, and this is episode 164 of the John 1911 podcast. Freeze was up all night working, and Danny was up all night watching the returns for Super Tuesday. But before we do that, I want to set the tone for this episode of this podcast with the top 3 fake headlines that I have seen this morning in the mainstream media to tell you why everybody shouldn't trust anything. So the first one is the undecideds broke for Joe Biden, which is interesting, a way to put that, all the people that wanted to vote for Klobuchar or Mayor Pete or Tom Steyer suddenly yesterday didn't have anybody to fucking vote for, so they broke for Joe Biden. That's an example of the media making a narrative to try to push an agenda. The second thing is, I heard the government has come out and said, stop buying the N95 coronavirus masks you need because they don't work. By the way, the medical professionals need the N95 virus mask, and it's like, okay, what's going on there? And then the piece de resistance was another outbreak has occurred in a section of China of this virus that everyone's all talking about. And the Chinese came out and said, no worries. It actually, the people that got it, they brought it back from Italy. So they caught it from the Italians. And it's like, well, if you look at the headlines, all of a sudden, all of northern Italy is infected with this virus. It's because Chinese tourists go to Europe and they all obviously were in Italy. But it was just hilarious to me that the government, they issued this and the media ran with it. No. This coronavirus hotspot in China actually originated from Italy, not the other way around. It's like, really? Okay.
Yeah, this hotspot originated in Italy, and the hotspot in Italy originated from China, and it's
a blame game.
It's just like, these people are just so full of shit. Everybody is so full of shit. So I guess we have to talk about. Oh, go ahead.
Let me tell you, I've been just like chomping at the bit to tell you this because I was up all night and I wasn't deep diving like Danny into the results, but I was getting headlines. But the biggest freaking loser on the Democratic side right now is Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg has spent $500 million. And on Super Tuesday, he won American Samoa.
He got 6 delegates, Freeze. Come on.
Dude, come on. He won out of everything. He won American Samoa. Think about that.
He bought the island.
Well, here's how fast and furious, no pun intended, for Mike Bloomberg. Here's how fast and furious these things are coming. So just like in ancient history, like 2 weeks ago, Tom Steyer had spent, was it $200 or $400 million? And he got, I think he got one. Is it one? Did he get 0? He got 0 delegates, which actually had set a new record because there was a guy, I can't remember who it was. He was a wealthy Democrat. Back in, I don't know, like the 80s or something, he spent a bunch of money on something and actually got 1 delegate. And it was, like in 1980s dollars. And like, that was the record of like, dollar per delegate ever set until Bloomberg has now come along. And I didn't even know American Samoa was in play on Super Tuesday.
Actually, neither did I. But I thought it was awesome. And here's the thing: the crazy thing about American Samoa is, I think they have like 6 delegates, which kind of blows me away. And he only won like 5 of the 6. He didn't even sweep it. Now, granted, he stretched it because he got the majority, but he didn't even sweep all the delegates from American Samoa. Now, I don't know what that breaks down dollar per delegate, but it's a lot of freaking money.
Yes, it is.
I tell you right now, who should be very nervous is Chief Political Correspondent Danny, because I can guarantee you right now that Danny is not prepared for the American Samoa conversation. And he's like, what the hell? Like, these guys actually know some shit.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't think it would be in Freeze's repertoire, but, I got to give him credit on that one,
Hey, look, you know what? I mean, I may be a dumb shit, but I'm not totally stupid.
I'm sitting here blown away. Like, holy shit!
What kind of innuendo are you spinning here, Freeze? Now, come on.
Yeah. See, I know. Danny sat down with his wife, sitting at the kitchen table. He was like, "Oh, this will be a piece of cake. These 2 fucking hillbillies, they don't know dick."
Well, you know what I am wondering. I don't know the United States tax code, but I'm wondering between Steyer and Bloomberg if there is some kind of loss write-off. Otherwise, why would you spend that money knowing you don't stand a snowball's chance in hell? Is it the notoriety? Is it Napoleon syndrome with Bloomberg? I mean, there has to be something in the wings for these people to expense that kind of funds. I don't get it.
Well, I can actually answer that for you. You cannot deduct political donations. They are also capped at an individual level at, I don't know, what is it now? It used to be 2,500, but it's more. It might even be like 4,700 or something now. But here's the thing. So apparently, Tom Steyer, number one, spent about 1/5 of his fortune. Possibly 20% of his fortune. Like, he spent a fair amount of money. Now, Bloomberg's numbers keep going. Like, at first I heard he was worth 40 million, then I've heard 40 billion, then I've heard 50 billion, and now I'm hearing 60 billion. To give people an idea how much money that is. Like, Donald Trump, like, there's some debate as to whether Donald Trump, what his real wealth is. Like, it might be, some people say it could be around $1 billion. Some people say it could be 8 or 10 billion. But see, Donald Trump's like a farmer. All of his money is tied up in real estate. He doesn't have that cash, he doesn't have that liquid cash sitting around. And I don't know Tom Steyer's liquid situation, but I think he made his money in investing. Bloomberg, owns Bloomberg LLP or limited partnership, whatever it is. Like, it's a big giant media company. I mean, I can't imagine Bloomberg sitting on billions in cash, but Bloomberg apparently is sitting on a lot of cash.
Well, I heard Bloomberg's net worth at one point was $65 billion, but then
that's the highest I've heard it.
Okay, but then after the stock market has been has been going kind of down, and I heard this about maybe.
Do you mean the commie cough that has brought the stock market down? The commie cough, yeah, okay,
yeah, exactly. Well, I heard that in the stock market he lost so much money, his net worth was like $54 billion. Now, look. When you're talking, going from 65, and I'm assuming, let's just assume these numbers are correct, because this is just what I heard. I don't know if they're true or not. But if you go from 65 billion to 54 billion, that's a huge hit. But on the other hand, we're talking billions, not millions, not hundred thousands. We're talking billions. So really, if you go from $65 billion worth of net worth to 54 because the stock market tanked over the course of the week, dude, you're not. Look, it's not the difference between steak and bologna.
Well, consider this. So a lot of our younger listeners will know who this is, and all of our younger listeners will know who this is, and some of our older listeners will know who this is. There's a guy out there who's a singer, an entertainer, and as he's gotten older, he's become an investor. His name is Jay-Z, right? And Jay-Z,
I'm familiar. I know of Jay-Z. I don't know the ins and outs of him.
But Jay-Z, he made money as in entertainment. That as he's gotten older, he's done investments. He owns, they do, like, he's even got a stake, possibly a minority stake in the NFL football team. Between Jay-Z and his wife, Beyonce, you hear numbers like 600 million, maybe $1 billion, but it's on paper versus what they own. But even if you give him the benefit of the doubt, and he's worth $1 billion on paper, mind you, on paper, like stocks and businesses and investments.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Bloomberg is 55 Jay-Z's minimum. 55 of him. Mike Bloomberg is so wealthy. It's crazy.
Oh, breaking news. Bloomberg just drops out of race.
Oh, there you go.
Did he?
Yes.
He dropped out. Oh, okay, Chief Political Correspondent Danny. So you just saved us from spending an hour talking about Mike Bloomberg. And then have it be stale.
And he threw his support behind Biden. That's who he is endorsing.
Look,
baby.
I cannot believe that after winning American Samoa that he would actually throw in the fucking towel.
Mike, you know what? No. Here's the story. Mike Bloomberg is a racist. Hold on, Mike Bloomberg is a racist because he just disenfranchised all those minority American Samoa voters.
Well, they're bottom line is they're brown people, and who the hell wants to support brown people?
Oh, God, don't even start.
Oh, God, I know.
The thing is, you say shit as a joke, but it comes off because people can't see your face. And, send the fucking emails to Freeze.
But you have to ask yourself, though. You have to ask yourself, is Bloomberg going to pledge money to Biden?
Here's what here's the theory on Bloomberg when he got into the race. So the theory was he actually wasn't really running to be president. He wanted to make a super PAC. He wanted to make a super PAC. I think Freeze has the commie cough. So the argument was he really wanted to make a super PAC to run Trump down, and super PACs have to buy ad spend at a certain rate. But because of FEC, Federal Election Commission rules, the candidates they all pay the same. Like, you can't charge Trump more than you charge Bernie. So they get a better rate, a preferred rate that's set by the FEC. And the argument was that Bloomberg really just did all this just so he could get I don't know what the percentages is, maybe a 25% better buy on his ad spend to run "Fuck You, Donald Trump" commercial.
That's an interesting theory, because when he got into this originally, he said he was willing to spend $1 billion, and he's at half that. He's half there. Because the latest I heard, he spent $500 million. Now, obviously that's fluid. That fluctuates on a daily basis, depending on what he's spending. But if he's committed to spending $1 billion, and look, I don't know what Mike Bloomberg's going to do, but if he commits to what he claimed, that he was willing to spend $1 billion to unseat Donald Trump. Okay, he ran for it. He made a bid at it. He spent $500 million. He drops out a few minutes ago, according to Danny. that still leaves him $500 million to support Biden or whoever gets the nomination, whether it's Biden or Bernie. At this point, it's kind of looking like Biden, but
Well, okay, there's a couple things here. So Bloomberg has multiple issues here. The first issue is, and the most pressing, is he's taken a huge hit to his reputation because he has political consultants around him that were getting paid big money to be like, yeah, dude, you got this. You were mayor of New York. You're a well-known businessman. You're not a communist. One time you ran as a Republican, winkety wink wink. And it's like, yeah, dude, yeah, I'll be on your campaign for $150,000, $200,000 a year, and talk them into this. And the argument is, can money buy politics? And obviously, I mean, it can't. I mean, in the shadow of all of this, let's not forget, Donald Trump is a billionaire. Donald Trump is a successful businessman of whatever, his real estate empire. Donald Trump didn't spend dick to run for president. He spent, like Hillary Clinton spent $1 billion to win that election.
The number I heard, and again, I'm not going to live and die by this number, but the number I heard in 2016, Donald Trump spent $71 million of his own money to run for president. Now, $71 million is a far freaking cry from $500 million or a billion. But
hold on, keep in mind, that doesn't even translate. He spent 70, if it's true, because I've heard it was half that, but let's just say that is true. $71 million. That's $71 million of his own dollars through the primaries, and he had to beat 16 other fucking people. He actually went to the convention that was almost contested because they were all sweating what Ted Cruz was going to do. And then he had to fucking fight against Hillary. Like, he didn't spend dick. Donald Trump raised all of his money from people like you and me. And, that's going to be the real takeaway after 2020. But hold on. Mike Bloomberg just 4 days ago said, and I quote, "I will stay in this race until the bitter end." Well, apparently we have gotten the DNA test back, the paternity test back, and we have found that is not true.
I don't know. American Samoa could be considered the bitter end.
Breaking news, Bloomberg, American Samoa lands Bloomberg satellite headquarters.
Well, Warren also said she's staying.
Hold on. Go ahead, Danny.
Warren also said she's going to stay in till the end.
Well, okay, you know what? Let's talk about what really happened over the past 48 hours or 72 hours. Like, good. I don't know this. Like, I don't know. I'm not in the Democrat circles. I occasionally get the invites to some of the meet and greets because it's business and you got to play both sides. But obviously, Tom Perez, who's the chairman of the Democrat National Committee, and, power players in the Democratic Party, they must have gone around like the mob to Klobuchar and to Buttigieg and the Steyer, and I guess now they've told Bloomberg, and they're all telling everybody, get the fuck out. You're going to fuck this up for everybody. You're going to get a communist fucking nominated, and he's not going to win, but we're still going to be here, and we're going to fucking remember. So shut up, turn in your shit, and walk the fuck away. And that's obviously what happened over the past couple of days.
And here's your lake house.
Yes, here's your lake house. Now, hold on. Here's something to consider. Yeah. So the media is spinning this as Biden's back, and it's like, okay, I don't know, but look, the Democrats have a huge problem. Whether it's true or it's not true, the public perception is the Democrats stole the nomination from Bernie in 2016.
Yes.
Well, that's the story. Look, I'm sure there's some Democrat listening to this who worked at the DNC and is like, that's not how it happened. Okay, that may be true. That may be true. But the public perception is, and all the Bernie bros and all these little commies believe it to be true. I don't know how Joe Biden and Bernie. Well, I don't know how Bernie Sanders goes to the Democratic National Convention with, let's say he's got 50% of the needed delegates to win, because I thought it was 1,700 delegates.
1991.
But now it's 1,900 apparently. So if he's literally tied with Biden, like if it's half and half, how do you not give it to Bernie and give it to Biden and not have all of Bernie's people start shooting everybody? Because they're crazy commies and they will start killing people. Like, here's the thing. So is the Democratic Party going to put Biden at top of the ticket and Bernie at the bottom of the ticket? Are you going to put two 77 or 78-year-olds with, one just had a heart attack and the other one seems to be in declining faculties? You're going to make them president and vice president? I mean, this is a nightmare. This is not over.
I think
not even close.
I think that's why Coach Barr dropped out, because I have a funny feeling that Biden might tap her.
Poor choice of words for Democrats.
Oh,
Biden might tap her.
Oh, sorry, the analogy was not meant to be that, but he might.
Yeah, you know what, Joe Biden?
That's
that.
No. That's an interesting scenario, though, because the truth is, I've always thought, out of all the Democrat front runners, Klobuchar was probably their best bet.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. So let's put on our Democratic hats here and let's pretend we're Democrats. And how do you win? How do you beat against Donald Trump? And how do you carry the whole country? So Joe Biden is the reason they like Joe Biden is because supposedly he appeals to the middle of the country. Supposedly, that's fine. So but how do you get California? How do you get the Bernie Bros? How do you get all these people? Like minimum 16% of the Democratic Party supports Bernie Sanders, like hardcore socialists. If they don't vote, if they sit at home, the Democrats lose. Putting Klobuchar on the ticket probably does not get them over. Does not bring the party together. I think the only middle ground they have is possibly Elizabeth Warren as VP, because she appeals. There is some crossover to the lefties. And she's also young enough to assume the presidency if Biden loses or Biden passes away or doesn't make it through a term.
But she's also a socialist too.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. No. Hold on. Yes and no. Elizabeth Warren her entire career she spent representing Wall Street interests, like up where she's up there in Massachusetts. There's tons of hedge funds. All this stuff. She was considered friendly to Wall Street. It wasn't until she started running for president and she started talking about Medicare for all and some of this other stuff, billionaires and billionaires, they turned on her. And the thing is, because there was a big meeting, like she went and did a meet and greet and went all up and down Wall Street and met with all these people. Like, are you going to, like all the Mike Bloombergs before Bloomberg got in, it's like, are you going to support me? I'm not going to put you out of business. I'm not going to put you in billionaire jail. This is just rhetoric. Winkety wink. It'll be fine. And they were like, bitch, you fucking crazy. We're not going to support you. Fuck you. We'll sit it out. Now they're looking at Bernie and it's like, well, now she seems conservative. Like they may have to do this.
Or they'll back Trump.
Or what they all said is they would sit it out, but the reality is they'll back Trump, which is in effect what they do, even if they just sit it out. But, the other argument is, now hold on, here's a black swan event. The other argument is the Democrats, like when you're fighting with AOC and you're fighting with Ilhan Omar and you're fighting with Bernie Sanders and you're fighting with all these super crazy leftists, like even when like Nancy Pelosi's fighting with them, not just us. The problem is they've never lost anything. So maybe the Democrats decide, all righty, Put fucking Bernie up. He can choose whoever he wants. Commie. You go ahead. Put that shit up there. Go get your ass handed to you. And then when it's over, the Tom Steyers and the Nancy Pelosi's and the Bloombergs can come out of the back rooms and they can tell the AOCs and the rest of the crazy commies, sit down, shut up. Your shit doesn't work. You cost us 2020. Fuck you. That's the only two avenues they have right now.
You know, and actually, that's solid. I mean, it really is, because look, if they lose the House, which they probably will, and they lose the presidency, which they probably will.
If Bernie is top of the ticket, there is a chance they lose the House.
Okay, so
not guaranteed.
No, nothing's guaranteed. It's a general election. But what I'm saying is, if they lose the House and they lose the presidency, and they're not gonna win the Senate back, and it's a total fucking rout, then what they can do is your Pelosi's and whatnot, they can sit there and tell all these extreme left-wing communists to sit there, and it will give them clout to say, shut the fuck up, because we took a hell of a beating because of you. It's time for you to shut the hell up and let the Democrats run the party, not this crazy socialist agenda, because the American people obviously don't want it, because we now don't have the House, Senate, or presidency. And the truth is, if Donald Trump wins the election, it's arguable that Ginsburg will freaking croak in the next, within the next 5 years, and then the Supreme Court's going to be a 5-3 swing, and they're going to lose the Supreme Court. Not that they have the Supreme Court,
they will have Ginsburg in a pod, in like embryonic fluid and a tube, like in the Matrix, fucking keeping her ass alive. I mean, it'll be, she will show up as like she'll show up with like a bunch of ones and zeros.
Freeze, touching on what you had just said about telling people to shut up, for the last 3 to 4 weeks, has anyone heard a peep out of Adam Schiff?
No.
And why do you think that is?
Because I don't want to hear about this shit.
Because I think he was told to shut up after his impeachment coup failed. And I think the Democrats are smart enough to know that, hey, look, all you're doing is turning more people against us. You better shut up. And I think that's why he's underground.
Well, I've noticed even AOC's been pretty quiet.
Nothing in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, it comes to a certain point in time where you're getting close enough to the election to where you have to tell these radicals to shut the hell up. And look, you get like AOC. She's a junior congresswoman. She has no fucking power. She has no fucking. And the truth is, they're talking about, hey, the best way to get rid of AOC is to incorporate her whole fucking district into other districts. They're talking about redistricting her area so she's not even eligible to run again. I mean, look.
Which would just pour gasoline onto the Bernie Sanders. We're going to, the Nancy Kerrigan. Who's the other girl you sent, Danny? Nancy Kerrigan versus Tanya Harding.
Oh, did you like that meme?
Dude,
yeah.
Oh my God. That was so awesome. But the kids today have they're like, who are these two chicks?
Who are these people? But.
Well,
but I mean.
Bernie's going to get Nancy Kerrigan again, I think, from the DNC.
If they Nancy Kerrigan his ass, there will be, if he doesn't get a deal, I don't know, some kind of deal with him up there at the convention where he can look to his people and they're like, okay, we get it. This is cool. You're Uncle Bernie didn't get the shaft. They'll stand down. But if they feel like Uncle Bernie got the shaft, I don't even think he could control them. They will start killing people. Like I mean,
I don't know if I'd go to that extreme,
dude,
but
it's Antifa. They are fucking crazy. They are mean, violent fucking people.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't know if they'll go to the extreme of starting killing people.
Yeah, I will go publicly right now on a limb and I will bet at least $1 that if the narrative goes out that Bernie got robbed, if the narrative goes out that Bernie gets robbed, there will be political violence on the left against the left. Because that's how, I mean, look at Portland. Look at, they've been doing stuff this past couple of weeks that hasn't gotten a lot of news. Like, all in one night, a bunch of Bloomberg offices got spray painted all across the country. That was all Antifa. And then, what was it? Amy Klobuchar, a couple of days ago, she was having a press conference to talk about something, and Antifa showed up. And basically, she had to cancel the press conference. That was all coordinated. The Bernie people are trying to run the moderates out of the race. And if they feel like that their boy doesn't get the brass ring, like they take it from him, they will. I mean, he can't stop them. Bernie can't stop these fucking people.
Well,
he doesn't control them.
Here's the thing: if the left-wing liberals really want to take on the right, don't they? We're not passive like that. The right will fight back. I hope they're smart enough to know that.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just talking about what's going to happen between now and the convention. It's like, I mean, the Democrats have been playing footsie with these commies for so long that they don't know what the hell to do right now.
I blame the DNC for emboldening them in the first place by even listening.
No. You're right, Danny. I mean, you're absolutely 100% right, because the DNC has basically patted them on the back and stroked them off and basically pushed them forward. But look, Marky, if what you're saying is true, and let's say they kill people, dude, they're done. They're destroyed, because the American public will not look. It's one thing being a rebel. It's one thing, burning garbage cans on college campuses. It's one thing inciting, in Seattle, Washington, inciting riot and beating the hell out of anyone that's got a MAGA hat on. But when you start actually killing people, dude, the country will. It reminds me of the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago.
I remember that.
Okay, well, so you had all these World War II, Korea War vets that supported the hippies. They supported the hippie movement because, they were combat vets, they were war veterans. They may not agreed with the hippies and the anti-war movement and Vietnam and all that shit, but it's like, hey, they were the greatest generation. They understood how America worked, and they understood that people can have dissenting opinions, and it wasn't bad. But at the DNC, when the crazy fucking what's the black guy that was the Obama advisor for a while, who was a big radical,
you mean the Weather Underground guy?
The Van Jones and all that guy. Okay.
Van Jones was not at the 68 convention. Van Jones is my age.
Bobby Ross.
Okay, so the weather.
Are you talking about the Weather Underground guy?
The Weather Underground guy. Okay, so what happened is at the 68 DNC, they took a World War II monument, and they after the riots, because there was big riots in Chicago over this. And anyone that wants to read about it, just Google it. It's there. I mean, I don't need to go into details on it. But what they did is they hung a North Vietnamese flag on a World War II monument. And that's really what turned off the majority of your middle-aged people in the United States. And that's when everyone turned against the hippie movement and your Weather Underground and the taking over of the college campuses and all this radical bullshit. Whereas they may not have agreed with it, but they didn't really outright oppose it. But all of a sudden, because you're talking about World War II and Korean vets who are real patriotic Americans, and as patriotic Americans, they don't hate you because you disagree with the politics of the country in the war we're in. But all of a sudden, you start hanging North Vietnamese flags on World War II monuments, and all of a sudden, everything changed, and the hippies became bad fucking people. And that's historical fact.
Okay, that's all well and good, but here's the question for 2020. Okay, so that supposes that the hippies, as you said, were this very overly represented, vocal, and aggressive minority. I think it's fair to say right now that the Democratic Party, at least 30%, if not, I don't know. I want to think it's 50, but at least 30% of the Democratic Party are stone cold socialist communists. These people are not like a very small minority. And so the real issue that the Democrats are having right now is, do they stay the Democratic Party or do they split in two? If they don't keep Bernie placated, the party splits, and it's now the Republicans, the Democrats, and become a three-party system.
Well, and here's the telltale sign of whether the Democratic Party splits or not. If they fuck Bernie, and you know what, I don't want to say if they fuck Bernie, but Bernie was screwed in 2016 over Hillary. We all know that. Everyone knows that. But if they shun Bernie the way they did in 2016, and the Bernie, you can't see my air quotes, but if the Bernie bros go crazy and, as you say, start killing people, there will be a fucking scission in the party because the Democratic Party will not accept that. And that's them going way off the reservation. And that's going to be the 68 thing that I'm talking about.
Hold on. So because this is getting pretty deep, and I want to keep it fun and light because, again, there's no point killing ourselves over Democrats. But let me go ahead and make a point how this is an example of a black swan, how out of control this is. So consider this. Clint Eastwood came out in favor of Bloomberg, Mr. Dirty Harry, who made all of his money with making gun movies. And I think that's so good. I think that's such a good lesson for people on our side of the aisle, because there's a lot of people that are Republicans and gun guys in particular. And I hate to say it like this, they're super lazy. They want to buy into tropes, and they want to buy into stereotypes. And they just assume people like Clint Eastwood, and if you're a 4-star general in the military, or if you are a country singer, that you believe in the same thing. Your version of America is the same as my version of America. And that is not true. However, the other side of the argument, a couple days ago, there's an old band from like the 80s that was super controversial. And they came out and did an event for Bernie Sanders in California a few days ago. And the band is called Public Enemy. It's a rap group. Public Enemy. So, and I think they may have even had, I don't know if they didn't fuck the police, but Public Enemy was like, oh my God. So they apparently are full-blown communists. They support Bernie Sanders, which isn't a huge surprise, but it is what it is. However, there is a band member who is a part of Public Enemy. He has officially been kicked out of Public Enemy. His name is Flav, and he is not supporting. There's some debate whether he's not supporting the band not paying him his royalties, or the band supporting Bernie Sanders, or they're not getting along, and it's a big schism. He would not show up at the Bernie Sanders event. Flavor Flav is apparently friends with Donald Trump, because I think Flavor Flav was on The Apprentice. Flavor Flav is on.
Let me tell you something.
Hold on. Let me say it. Flavor Flav is on my side of the argument, possibly, and Clint Eastwood isn't. Tell me this isn't the sign of the end time.
Look, let me tell you something about Flavor Flav. I don't know shit about rap music. I don't know anything. I mean, when you start talking about rappers and dropping names, yeah, I know a lot of the names because I've heard of them, but I don't know anything because I don't listen to it. I don't care for it. It is what it is. But I like Flavor Flav. Flavor Flav.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, I do. Because if you ever seriously, if you ever listen to him in his interviews, he's so fucking amusing. How can you not like the guy?
The listeners that don't know who the hell, he's likable. He's a little crazy. Flavor Flav is the
he's batshit fucking crazy.
Hold on, because a lot of people, if you don't follow rap music, and he's not really an active rapper anymore. He's more of like a rapper emeritus. He's the guy in the 80s. If you used to see videos in the 80s, that he always was dancing around in the videos with a giant clock around his neck.
Oh, hell yeah. He had shit hanging out of his fucking dreadlocks and crap. Dude.
Yeah, but he's the one that always had a giant clock.
Always around his neck on a big fucking gold chain. Yes.
Yeah. So I will put a picture of Flavor Flav up. His ex-girlfriend, incidentally, he used to date, he dated, who's that tall blonde woman that used to be involved with Sylvester Stallone?
I don't know. When you say tall blonde woman, I think of a girl named Sherry.
Sharon Stone?
Has nothing to do with Sylvester Stallone, but it's a tall blonde woman I used to know years ago.
Okay, no, this woman, Ingrid, what was her name? She was in Rocky. She played like a Russian. She's
I have no clue.
What is her name? She was a big hot actress in the 90s. Like, what? Remember when Rocky fought against Ivan Drago, the Russian?
Oh yeah, his that was
girlfriend. Yeah, blonde woman with him is the girl.
Yeah,
with Ivan Drago with the short blonde hair. That's Flavor Flav's ex-girlfriend as well.
Well, good for Flavor Flav.
Oh no! As we were speaking about the divide in the Democrat Party, the Bernie versus Biden people, Trump decides to just release a tweet. You talk about gas on the fire, and here's a quick sample of his tweet. Wow. If Elizabeth Warren wasn't in the race, Bernie Sanders would have easily won Massachusetts, Minnesota, and Texas. Our modern-day Pocahontas will not go down in history as a winner, but will go down as the world's greatest spoiler.
God almighty. Donald Trump.
There's the gas on the fire.
Oh, my God.
Fucking winner chicken dinner. And by the way, congrats, Danny, for being on a podcast and still following minute-by-minute updates on what's going on.
It's my job, man. It's my job.
Yeah. Danny sits. He looks like a control room at Fox. He's got like 8 TVs going on mute with crawlers and chyrons.
It looks like a sports bar in my house.
Actually, I just picture a picture of Yoda sitting in front of computer screens.
God almighty. Fuel on the fire. Okay, you know what? We've gone long. We've gone 40 minutes on this. I want to get some gun stuff in just so people can, kind of know what's going on.
Okay, well, let's talk about my new 9mm.
Hold on, you don't have it yet.
I don't have it yet.
But I have some gun content when we get a chance to bring up.
Oh shit! Okay, Danny, bring it on, Danny.
Okay,
Danny, please go.
I was watching a video the other day that was sent to me. Now, you guys would know this stuff. I have no clue. But when you buy a gun and you fill out the federal FL form, I don't know the number. They showed the number.
4473.
Okay.
Yeah.
What the ATF is doing, they have changed that form. It used to be your private information was more on like page 2 or 3. Well, the ATF is going into FFL dealers, pulling out all those old forms and lining them up and snapping photos of the front page, but they can't access the more pertinent information on page 2 or 3. Now that new form on the front of page 1 now has the pertinent information that they're trying to push through. So if they go to the FFL dealer, they could snap it and get it all for their records, almost like a gun registry.
Well, here's my response to that. Number one, by law, they're not supposed to be able to have a gun registry. That's why they have they keep all the paper records when an FFL goes out of business in West Virginia, and they have to put them on microfiche and go through them by hand. But with today's technology of photographing stuff and scanning, because California apparently is taking images of guns off the internet and keeping the serial numbers and building a database of guns and gun owners, even from out of state, because they're just scouring them off the internet. Now, thirdly, here's my problem with this theory. I don't know what the details are, but I have filled out so many 4473s. All the pertinent information is already on the front page.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm not familiar with it, so maybe that's why I thought you guys would know a hell of a lot more than I do.
Okay, so my whole take on that is I really don't give a shit, and let me explain that. Okay, so when you fill out 4473s over the years, and you have I have an 03 FFL. I think, Marky, do you have an 03 FFL as well, I believe?
The CNR one? No.
Yeah, the CNR? Okay.
No,
I've got a CNR or an 03 FFL, which I've had for many, many years. And the truth is, I mean, Marky, you've filled out NFA paperwork. I have an NFA tax stamp sitting in the books right now. Thank you very much, by the way. Look, the truth is, my shit is so on fucking record. I don't really give a shit if they're taking pictures of the front page or the back page or page 8 or page 23 of a 4473. Because the truth is, in our state here in Ohio, if you have a concealed carry permit, they fill out the 4473, but they don't even have to call in the background check. It's just like, they check your ID, they check the your concealed carry permit. You fill out the 4473, which you have to do, and then they just give you your shit. I mean, I can't even, it's almost like conspiracy theorist people. It's I don't want to say conspiracy theorists, but it's like people in the gun world tend to be conspiracy theorists about all this shit that the government does. But look, the truth is, if you have NFA items or you have an FFL, and you fill out 4473s and you buy firearms, dude, the government has more information off your goddamn smartphone than they do off of all these other forms. It's like, I just don't fucking care. I don't really give a shit.
So here's where I'm kind of come down on that. Look, from a practicality standpoint, Freezer's 100% correct. I mean, it's like, this is all just, it's so hard to keep all this stuff hidden. However, I also believe I don't want to make it easier for the government in any way whatsoever 30 years from now or 50 years from now to suddenly Bernie Sanders is president and they decide we're coming around to take your shit. So out of principle, I disagree with it. Now, let me say this. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard this from some dealers in Ohio. They will not transfer guns to California. And part of the reason is if you do business as an FFL with the state of California, now I've heard this, it could be, if you're listening and you know more about this, and if I got this wrong or this is a conspiracy theory, but the deal I've heard from a couple dealers, they tell me that agents from the California Department of Justice will show up at your dealer in your state, and they basically say, you want to do business and transfer guns into California, we need copies of all of your 4473s that you've ever produced. And that's why you see multiple dealers on the internet will say, we do not do business in California. So here's the thing. If this is true, if you have ever bought a gun from a gun dealer 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and that you're like, oh yeah, I can ship a gun to California through that dealer, the state of California probably has copies of all your 4473s to that dealer. Think about that.
I have actually heard that as well. Whether it's true or not, I cannot verify. I'm not going to bet the bank on that because I don't know. But I have heard that as well. And the truth is, if you go to a lot of online dealers, and I'm not talking about like Gun Broker, but I'm talking about your Aim Surplus, your Century International. You go for your major online dealers. A lot of them will not ship to California, and I have to kind of think that whether I may not know that that's true or not, I have to kind of think that these big businesses, and these are big successful businesses that make a lot of money, I have to kind of go with that. I mean, I really do, because a lot of businesses will not do business with California.
I'm glad you talked about money, because here's something a lot of people in the gun community today refuse. They just don't know this. They refuse to accept it. They're always like, fuck California. I hope California falls in the ocean, whatever. And that's all perfectly fine. But what the average gun owner in Georgia or Kentucky or Indiana doesn't recognize is how many people in California own guns. And here's the proof. California is super hard to sell guns into. You got to have compliant guns. You got to have guns on that list. They got to be drop tested. And so you always see, insert your favorite company that makes a gun. And then eventually, I hope you guys make one for California. Trust me, when you see a gun company, even like the high-end companies, and they're making a California DOJ compliant gun, and as much of a pain in the dick that is, that goes to show you how many guns they still sell in California. There's a lot. There's probably like 20% of this country's, at least 15 to 20% of this country's gun owners live in California today.
And that's a fantastic point, because the truth is, okay, so if John 1911 was making a firearm, I don't know, the John 1911 big fucking helicopter dick gun. If we weren't making,
I want one.
well, you see, that scares me about you, Danny, because you want one of these. But
go on.
Gotta keep the company going.
No. The truth is,
Daddy likes.
the truth is, if we were willing to sell the helicopter big dick gun in California, it's because we're making a lot of money. Otherwise, why would we even freaking bother? Why does Kimber sell a California compliant gun? Hell, why does Ed Brown sell a California compliant gun?
Because they're selling them hand over fist, because there's a lot of guns.
Exactly.
Because the population of California, is California the most populous state in the country?
Yes, it is, and it also has, that's the reason it has 55 electoral college votes, because it is the most populous country in the states.
Populous state in the country.
Freeze. That's
you know what I mean.
Right.
Are you day drinking again?
No, I'm not day drinking. I've been up for like 20 hours.
Freeze.
Hey,
I got one quick point. Freeze. That's an excellent point, because do you remember back in the 70s and 80s, if you went to buy a car, and the wrong California emission car might be at that dealer because their emission standards were totally different than any other car we would buy, in our area. You remember that? So California,
yes,
still are.
So California.
No, I do. Let me tell you a story about cars. Okay, so my father retired from General Motors. He was a GM employee, union employee, by the way, which if anyone who is a fond, who's a fan of our page knows how I feel about unions, but whatever. So in 1984, again, we're talking about gas regulations, California compliance, and whatnot. My father bought a Trans Am, and he actually walked it through the assembly line because he worked at the plant that the car was being made at. And when his order came up, because he special ordered this car, he had, now mind you, today this doesn't make a lot of sense, but in the 1980s with the gas, you were coming off the gas regulations, the gas lines and whatnot. Okay, so because of U.S. compliance, the gas tank, where you put the nozzle in the gas tank, was smaller in the United States than it was in any other country. So because he walked this car through the line, the guy who was putting the gas tank in the car, he had the guy put a Canadian gas tank in the car, which had a larger hole without a flapper. Now, his thinking was, you know what, I want the larger hole, whatever. And because he was an insider and he walked the car through the line, he could get it done. The truth is, at the end of the day, it really didn't make any fucking difference. But the point is, again, this was the 80s. I mean, we were dealing with different politics. We were dealing with, gas regulations. And he's like, you know what? I don't want a U.S. compliant gas tank. I want just the normal gas tank I had through the 40s and 50s and the 60s and whatnot, which was a Canadian gas tank.
He wanted to have the option that no matter what, if he had the ability, he wanted to have the ability, no matter what, to put whatever gas he could find in that car without any bullshit with the nozzle.
Exactly. Yeah. Now,
he wanted to go down and get JP4 from the airport and drive that car, whatever that fuel is those boys put in those cars.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
Or something tells me someone had a farm tank that they could have put gas in also.
Well, you know what, though? And that's a very good point, Danny, because growing up, my uncle, who had a farm in Indiana, and we used to hang out. I mean, as a kid, I used to hang out there all the time. He had his own gas tanks, and I'm sure most people that have been on farms remember the days, and they probably still today have their own gas tanks. But my uncle, he had two tanks sitting there, one with gasoline, one with diesel. And by the way, it was the God rest his soul. It was horrible on my uncle when myself and my cousins used to indiscriminately gas up our mini bikes and motorcycles with his free gas, because he had a gas tank. But yes, you're right though, because nozzle differences I mean, look, when you pull into a gas station, whether it's a Speedway or a UDF or a BP or whatever, Sunoco, Shell, all the nozzles are the same today. But back 30, 40 years ago, they were not.
I wonder if it has anything to do with the taxes. And didn't they used to color, the gas was a different color, whether it was paid, a certain tax was paid on it?
Yes.
Diesel was red.
Well, and you bring up a good point, because here's the thing. Ethyl, which they don't even make anymore, which was a high octane gas. And I used to buy ethyl gas for my motocross bikes back when I was in my teens and early 20s. Ethyl was I want to think it was like 103, 104 octane. And it was it had a purplish tint. But yes, So like my parents.
We're going way afield here because we're supposed to be talking about guns, by the way. Just saying.
But let me bring up this point real quick. And just a real quick point.
Day drinking. I'm just saying.
No. Okay, so my parents heat their house with a furnace that's oil heat. And everyone's heard of you have gas heat, electric heat, oil heat.
Yeah. Oil
heat is diesel fuel. And the difference is diesel fuel for the road is dyed, it has a red dye in it. But like the diesel fuel that they put in his tank to run his furnace is clear. And the difference is, so like, okay, you exactly. You don't have to pay road taxes on heating oil. Yeah. And heating oil is diesel fuel. So like if you were running an over the road, if you were an over the road truck.
Okay. We're gonna lose headphones here. We're gonna get you. We gotta rein it in. We're about to lose it here. So
gotcha.
Okay, so a couple of things I wanted to mention because I got good news for you, Freeze. Remember how I predicted that the 320 is going to take over eventually?
Yes.
The SIRT training pistol, you know those little red laser gun pistols? We have one for a Glock. They've come out with a 320 SIRT pistol finally.
No shit, really?
Week. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dang, okay.
The 320 is going to take over since it's the service pistol. So, that was kind of I just thought I wanted to tell you that. But
no, that's cool. Didn't we pick one of those up at like an NRA show, like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that?
Yeah, I guess I don't remember where we got. I never use it because I just dry fire regular guns.
I don't know. I think it was an NRA show, but it was years ago. But yeah, okay, yeah, cool. I remember that.
They got a 320, and I know eventually you're gonna go 320. So
I'm definitely going 320. It's just a matter of when.
Once you pay off all your diesel fuel taxes, you'll get 320. So,
yeah.
Marky, do you even have a clue of what you have in your inventory?
No, he does not. But look, okay, between the armory,
we can't. I can't keep. We have to use an inventory system.
Exactly, because look. Here's the thing: you have to, Danny. You don't even realize between the armory, which is just, and we mention the armory a lot, but the people that are listening to us don't even fucking know. Between the armory and then between what I have in my house, which isn't even in the armory, and I check out shit from the armory on occasion, and and it goes back. It's like, honestly, it really takes an inventory system because, and I'm not trying to say that, that we're awesome or amazing, but it's just like over the past, I don't know, Marky, 10, 12 years?
All I know is I'm like on the edge of my seat. We got to keep it. We make oblique references to the armory. We don't make specific references.
No, and we never make specific references. But the thing is, over the past 10, 12 years, just is the two of us being gun enthusiasts and being in business together, we just accumulated so much crazy shit. We've actually built a fucking armory. I mean, in my view, the armory is very well secured. Actually, anything in my house,
I'm about to lose you guys. So we're not going to talk about the armory anymore right now. We are done with the armory. So, okay, we got to do I like to do a police blotter at the end of every podcast. And I was going to do the Kobe Bryant airplane crash pics. The sheriffs out there have been getting in trouble because they took personal pics of the crash scene. And the reason I was going to talk about that is because, without being specific, and things have changed now, but I have had law enforcement officers share with me personal photographs from their airplane crash scenes that they've worked, within the past 15 years And so this is definitely not like a completely foreign idea. However, that got knocked off the police blotter by an incredible story. I want everybody that listens to this podcast to Google. There was a attempted murder hit in Yellow Springs, Ohio, by a stunt woman, current stunt woman, and her husband. They tried to do this crazy Hollywood hit job on her ex-husband and his new wife, and it turned into this giant running gun battle with three people involved. Both these hit people died, and it must have been like, I don't know how many rounds were fired, but it was more than 8 from a 1911. And
Damn.
That story is so unbelievable. You have to Google the story from the stunt woman in Yellow Springs, Ohio. That is true. It's unreal.
Put a link to the story in the description.
I will. So,
were they using light triggers like Freeze?
I don't know. Well, they had like secret cameras. They were doing surveillance on the property. It's crazy. So,
dude, yeah.
I'm going to lose you guys. I got to toss it. I'm going to lose you guys. Day drinking. Man. We're going to lose you. So this wraps up episode 164 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see stories, pictures, or links of anything that we talked about today, you can go to our website at john1911.com. It's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
See you later.
Bye-bye.